Hi everyone! So today we're going to talk about CodeIgniter model, inserting data. Okay, so before we jump into the coding part of our model, yung gagawin muna natin is to set up yung mga template files natin. Okay? So since the topic natin in this part is focused on inserting data, therefore we're going to create a form wherein we can allow the user to input some data on that particular form. Then once it is submitted, then we're going to save the data into the database. Okay? So we're going to set up first yung template files natin. So let me go to my blog controller. So meron akong mga nadagdag na mga methods dito. We have the index, the add, and the edit. Okay? So for the index part, dito ko ilalagay yung mga list of posts na gagawin ko. Then, or i-display ko. Then sa add naman, dito magkakaroon ng adding form. Basically, then for the edit, of course, yung editing form naman. Okay, so as you will notice guys, I utilize yung sinasabing page fragment. Okay? Na kung saan I load multiple template files kasi nakaseparate na yung header file ko, yung footer file ko. Then I also have yung pinaka main content. So wherein I try to organize them up na kung saan yung header at saka yung footer file is inside a directory of templates. Then for the main content naman, it is saved under the blog directory. Okay? So, yung basis ng aking directory dito, itong sa main content, yung blog will depend on the class name or yung controller name ko. Then, pagdating naman sa add, it will depend on the method name. Okay? Para at least padali nating malalaman kung what specific file ba yung ginawa natin for this specific method. Okay? So that's how I try to organize yung mga template files na ginawa ko in this particular part. Okay? Now let's try to check out yung template files natin for the add. Since we're managing yung pag-add ng data or yung pag-insert ng data, so ito lang muna yung ipapakita ko sa inyo for the template part of the add.php file. So I have here yung form natin for the it's just a simple HTML form. Then yung mga input field ko or yung mga input field, we have yung for the title. Then we have for the content, meron naman tayong text area. Then we have a submit button here. And also for the part of the cancel button. So, I want you to remember guys kung ano yung mga name na ginamit ko in the part of the field. For the title part, I use the name title, which is sometimes I try to use this based on the or representing the field name coming from the database na kung saan yung ginawa natin before. Then for the part of the content, name naman niya is content. Then I also have yung button natin for the save button, meron din siyang name button. Save na name. Okay, so we're going to utilize those names once the form is submitted. So kindly remember those names. Okay. Okay, now let's try to access yung page natin. Just make sure guys na naka-start na yung Apache and MySQL natin. So let's try to view the page by typing this particular link, localhost / myfirstCIO project /blog/add. Okay? Then, this will display based on the code na ginawa ko. So, it's up to you guys kung ano yung magiging layout structure nyo, layout design nyo. So, at this particular part, I utilize yung Bootstrap. Okay, para at least mapadali yung mga styling ko ng buttons, yung mga panels, mga ganon. So, I utilize that particular CSS framework. Okay? So, ito yung pinaka-sample natin, yung for the adding form. We have the title, we have the for the content part, and for the save post button and also for the cancel. Okay? So ito yung gagamitin nating form for this particular part para once the user inputs some data in here and click save, it will be kukunin natin yung data na na-post and save it to the database. Okay? So, yun ang gagawin natin. So, make sure na meron muna tayong mga templates na ma-manipulate before going to the part of the coding in the model side. Okay? Okay, so in the part of the model, so we have here yung blog model natin before. So, let's try to create a method for inserting. So, ito. So, I created a method of insert post and meron tayong ditong data associative array. And then within this associative array, yung inilagay ko ditong mga key will represent the field name coming from the database, yung title at saka yung content. Then ito namang line of code, the this input post, this is same with the $_post. But they're just small tweaks on how CodeIgniter do it. And I will going to discuss that later on. Okay? So, this part, this is the input name. Then, dito naman yung input name ng content. So, this input post. So, once the form will be submitted, we're going to retrieve the data coming from those form and set it to this particular array. Okay? Now, we have this line of code, the this db insert. So, this is a query builder class on inserting a record. So the first parameter here, basically guys, is the table, which is yung ginawa natin na post. Then ito namang data, the variable will be this one, the data that we want to be inserted into the database. Then after that, we're going to return whatever result this particular method will be have. Okay? So yung return value niya, basically, it can be a true or false. It is a Boolean return value. Okay? Okay, now let's try to know the accessing form data. This is the one that we talk about, yung sinasabi kong $_post. This is the one. Okay, so let's try to check it out. So using post, get, cookie, or server data. So CodeIgniter comes with helper methods that lets you fetch post, get, cookie, or server items. Okay, so the main advantage of using the provided methods rather than fetching an item directly using this one, yung $_post, then the input name, is that the method will check to see if the item is set and return null if not. This lets you conveniently use data without having to test whether an item exists first, which is yung usual na ginagawa natin is parang ganito. We try to check if nakaset or set ba yung isang post data. If it is, then we're going to assign it a variable. Otherwise, we're going to assign a null value. Okay? But if we're going to use yung yung CodeIgniter methods, then this is how we do it na lang. This input post, then the input name. Okay? So that's how we do it in CodeIgniter na lang, para at least mas maging madali. Okay, so the main methods are this samples. So we have this input post for post method, this input get, then we have this input cookie, then the last one is the this input server. Okay? But at this particular part, we're going to focus on the this input post. Okay. Okay, so that is the explanation about this particular line of code, which is the this input post method. Okay, guys? Now let's try to talk about the two ways of inserting data. So the first way actually yung tinatawag nating query basics. Wherein we're going to utilize yung query function. And within that function, we're going to pass a query string. Okay, this is the normal way if we're trying to manage yung database natin. especially if we're trying to manage yung shell o di kaya yung command prompt. If you can still remember. Okay? This is how we do it. But there are things that we need to work on this if we're going to utilize yung query function. Okay? So the this function will return true or false depending on success or failure. Note, you need to escape the data or use the query binding instead to provide a safer query. So that's the thing na sinasabi ko na kailangan pa nating i-manage if we're going to utilize yung query function. Okay? Okay, so the second way naman is yung sinasabi natin, query builder class. So the insert method, ito yung ginamit natin kanina. Okay, so generate an insert string based on the data you supply and runs the query. You can either pass an array or an object to the function. So we have here yung sample natin. So yung array or yung associative array natin, which this indicates the field and also this one. Then the value naman yung dito na gusto nating i-insert sa database. So in this line of code, the first parameter will indicate the table name. Then the second will be the data. Then it will produce this kind of query string. Insert into my table based on the table that we have provided here. Then the field name, values equals the values. Okay? So the first parameter will contain the table name. The second parameter is an associative array of values. The insert method will return a response of true on success, then false on failure. Note, all values are escaped automatically, producing safer query. So that's the good thing if we're using a query builder class. And I totally encourage you guys to use this kind of method instead of using the query function. Okay? Okay, now we already know what is the purpose of this line of code and also the purpose of this insert method. Okay? Okay, now let's try to talk the loading model. So, ano ba yung sinasabing loading of model? So basically, nakagawa pa lang tayo ng model. But yung tanong, paano ba natin to gagamitin if we already submitted the form? Okay, so that's the next thing or that's the part na pag-uusapan natin ngayon. So let's try to go back muna to the part of the model to controller, yung graph example natin. So we're already done yung controller connecting to the views, which is we already done this on our previous videos. So ngayon, yung gagawin natin is from controller to communicate with the model. Okay, then once the model have the data that we need, it will return it back to the controller. Okay, so yun ang concept natin ngayon. From the controller, communicate with the model, then from the model, we're going to return back any value to the controller. And if there's a need to pass it to the view, we're going to pass it to the view for displaying purposes. Okay? So yun ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon. Loading a model. So your models will typically be loaded and called from within your controller methods. To load a model, you will use the following method. This load model, then yung model name. If your model is located in a subdirectory, include the relative path from your models directory. For example, if you have a model located at application/model/blog/ yung file, which is queries.php, you load it using this one. This load model, then yung directory / yung model name mo. Okay? Okay, so once loaded, you will access your model methods using an object with the same name as your class. So ganito, we try to load the model with using the model name. Basically, yung ginagawa dito is we're trying to include. Okay, we're trying to include yung model natin or yung class file natin. So once that happen, After that, magiging available na yung mga methods niya. So, paano natin tatawagin yung method niya? So, by this kind of line of code. This model name, then yung method name. Okay? So, if you would like your model assigned to different object name, you can specify it via the second parameter of the loading method. So, kagaya nito. So, you try to load or to include your file, and sabihin nating mahaba yung pangalan ng model name mo. Of course, baka gusto mong palitin, then you can specify the small name for that in the second parameter. So once we call a specific method, we're going to do it something like this. This, yung new model name mo, then yung method. Basically, para siyang alias of this particular model. Okay? So that's how we do it. Okay, now let's go back to the controller part. Now, we're going to load the method. So, since we are focusing on the part of inserting data, yung i-manipulate lang muna natin is yung add method. Okay, so magdadagdag tayo ng panibagong code. Yan. So, gumawa ako ng if statement dito. This input was save. So, ano ba itong save? This is the name of the button or the submit button. So, parang sinasabi dito, if the form was submitted or naset na ba yung button, therefore, I'm going to process on inserting the data. Otherwise, kung hindi pa, i-display ko lang yung adding form. Okay? So, let's assume na submit na yung form. So, yung gagawin natin, we're going to load first the model. So, this load model, saan ba itong blog model natin? Ito yung ginawa natin kanina, which is this one. The blog model. Okay? Yan yung ilalagay natin doon. Then, after that, since we already loaded our model, we're going to call the method. This blog model insert method. So, saan naman to galing? That was the method that we have created on our model, which is this one, the insert post. Okay, then after it is called, basically once it is called, it will try to execute this process and execute this one and return any kind of response. Okay. Okay. Now, after executing this line of codes, then we're going to redirect back to the login form. I mean, yung adding form rather. Okay, guys? So let's try that one. Let's try to go back to our adding form and let's try to include or type some data. We have the title of this one, then we have the content. Once we click save post, then masisave na yung data natin. Pero wala tayong nakita ang any kind of parang notification lang naman, wala. Pero if we're going to check our database, we successfully inserted the data. Okay? Pero, yung problema lang ngayon, there's no notification or alert or message that we successfully inserted the data into the database. So, that's the next thing na pag-uusapan natin, in which we're going to talk about yung sinasabi nating Flashdata. CodeIgniter support Flashdata or session data that will only be available for the next request and is then automatically cleared. This can be very useful, especially for one-time informational error or status messages. For example, the post was successfully added. Okay? For us to use the Flashdata, we need to initialize the session first. Okay. So initializing a session. Sessions will typically run globally with each page load. So the session class should either be initialized in your controller constructors through manual loading, or it can be auto-loaded by the system. For the most part, The session class will run unattended in the background, so simply initializing the class will cause it to read, create, and update sessions when necessary. Okay. So let's start with the manual loading. So to initialize the session class manually, okay, in your controller constructor, use this load library method. So this is how we do it. This load library, then we're going to indicate here yung session. Then we're going to place that on our constructor method of our controller. Okay? So the next way naman is yung sinasabi nating auto-load session. To auto-load the session, update the auto-load library's variable array in the application config autoload.php file and add an item of session. So let's try to visit that particular file. So ito yung file natin kanina. So the first thing na na-autoload natin is yung database. Ngayon, yung i-autoload naman natin is yung session. So all we need to do is to add an item here. Something like this. So once you do that, magiging available na yung session natin for the entire system every time the page loads. Okay? Now, add item to Flashdata. To add Flashdata, this is how we do it lang. This session, then set underscore Flashdata. Then the first parameter will be the item or the index na gagamitin natin. Then the second parameter will be the value na gusto nating ilagay. Okay? Now, once magawa na natin yung pag-add, we are going now to read or reading the Flashdata. So to read Flashdata, ganito naman. This session, Flashdata lang. Wala nang set. Okay? Flashdata, then the item. So ano yung item? Yung item na naset natin kanina, o di kaya yung index na ilalagay natin. Okay? Then once you do that, basically, reading Flashdata variables in the same as reading regular session data through the $_session. Something like this. Okay? Note, the Flashdata method returns null if the item cannot be found. Okay? Okay, so let's go back to our controller blog, then to the part of our add method. So magdadagdag tayo ng code dito na maset yung Flashdata natin. Yan. So we add additional line of codes, which is this session set Flashdata, then insert post response yung item natin. Okay? Then yung value natin is the response coming from the insert post. So what will be the insert post? Ano ba yung response niya or return value niya? So let's try to check the code. The insert method, guys, basically, yung process na to, yung return value niya is boolean, whether true or false. So once ma-execute to, it will be returned to the caller, which is yung sa controller natin part. Then, ito naman yung sasalo ng value na na-return coming from the insert post. And yun naman ang ilalagay natin papunta sa ating Flashdata. Okay? Then after that, it will be redirected. Mare-redirect na siya pabalik sa adding form. Okay, so let's try to check our template file for add. So ito yun. So we have the form. So ilalagay natin sa taas yung Flashdata natin, yung magiging alert message natin. Something like this. So dito, we're going to call or to read the Flashdata na set natin earlier. So this session Flashdata, which is the insert post response. So you can write actually, guys, any kind of item or key or index here based on the set Flashdata na ginawa nyo. Okay, so I try to use the 3 equal sign for comparison to make sure that yung data type na check din natin. that I will make sure that boolean yung i-check ko dito. So if the response is true, therefore, I'm going to display this kind of alert message saying that the post was successfully added. Okay, so otherwise, if false yung return or yung response, then I'm going to display this one. An error occur, please contact the system administrator. But of course, it's up to you guys what kind of statement are you going to place here. Basta yung importante, regardless of the result, if it is the response, if it is true or false, kailangan maglagay tayo ng notification para aware yung mga user kung ano ba yung nangyayari sa data nila. Para at least alam na na-save ba o hindi. Ganon. Okay? Now let's try to go to the form. So in this form, now we're going to set new data. Okay, then let's try to click save. Once we click save, yan, we have now the notification that the post was successfully added. Okay, let's try to check the database. Okay, so we will notice na we already have the second record. Okay, so therefore, we successfully added talaga yung post natin. Okay, guys? Okay, so basically guys, that's how we manage yung pag-insert ng mga data natin coming from the user, managing it to catching the user input and save it into the database, then provide some notification para at least aware yung user if na-insert ba yung post niya o hindi. Okay? So yun. That's how we do it. Okay guys? Okay, so I think that's it guys. I hope you learned something new today regarding our topic, which is about CodeIgniter model, inserting data. Okay, so if you did, please click thumbs up and please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you will not miss our upcoming uploads. Okay, so just like I always say guys, just keep practicing and never stop learning. Thank you for watching guys and goodbye for now.